Atlanta 911, operator 7959. What's the address to your emergency?
Sir, I'm at the entrance of Piedmont Park. I just was searching for my girlfriend's phone because I couldn't find her. She just said she's here at Piedmont Park. Please help.
You said somebody's dead at Piedmont Park?
On a humid July morning in 2021, a chilling tale began to unfold in the heart of Atlanta. Piedmont Park, usually a place of serenity and escape, became the site of an unspeakable horror, one that would haunt the city long after the sun rose. Emma Clark had just finished her shift when she returned home, expecting to find her wife, Katie Janness, waiting for her, but the apartment was eerily silent. Calls and texts went unanswered. A growing unease gnawed at Emma as she tried to reason through the silence. Then, desperation took over. She opened her phone and used the location tracking feature, her breath hitching as the blinking dot remained frozen, somewhere inside Piedmont Park. With growing dread, Emma made her way through the quiet streets towards the park's 10th Street entrance. The closer she got, the heavier the air seemed to grow. Something was wrong. The park, though a familiar refuge during the day, took on a menacing aura in the darkness. Then she saw it. Just beyond the gates, barely visible in the glow of the street lights, was a shape, a mass. Emma stepped forward, her heart pounding, her mind screaming against the reality forming in front of her. Before she became the tragic figure at the heart of one of Atlanta's most chilling unsolved murders, Catherine, or Katie Janness, was a woman of passion, creativity, and love. Born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, Katie's early life remains largely private, but what is known paints the picture of a free-spirited artist searching for her place in the world. By 2006, she had left her hometown behind, seeking something more, a future in music. Detroit, as she told those close to her, felt like a ghost town. Atlanta, with its thriving art scene, seemed like the perfect place to chase her dreams. Katie's love for music defined much of her life. She was a singer, a songwriter, a poet. Though her time in bands was fleeting, her passion for creation never wavered. She continued composing music and writing lyrics, leaving behind a body of work that can still be found online, a haunting reminder of a life cut short. Fate, however, had more than music in store for Katie. Through one of her jobs, she met Emma Clark, a woman nearly a decade younger, but, as those who knew them would say, her perfect match. Katie had worked alongside Emma's brother, which led to their introduction and the beginning of a deep, unwavering love. The specifics of their relationship, whether they were officially married or not, became a point of discussion in the wake of Katie's murder, but to those who knew them, the labels didn't matter. Joe Clark, Emma's father, summed it up best. They would have been together forever. They were that couple. Together, Katie and Emma built a life in Atlanta, sharing a home, dreams, their beloved dog, Bowie. They had a love that was meant to last a lifetime. But on the night of July 27, 2021, that lifetime was stolen and nothing would ever be the same again. It was an ordinary summer day in Atlanta, at least at first. Katie had the day off, a rare opportunity to relax while her wife Emma prepared for a late shift at Henry's Midtown Tavern, just a few blocks from their home. They spent the morning together eating breakfast, enjoying time with their beloved dogs Tori and Bowie. Simple, everyday moments that, in hindsight, would become unbearably significant. That evening, as Emma worked, Katie decided to take Bowie for a walk around the neighborhood. Around 11:35 p.m., she made a stop at Henry's Tavern, a spontaneous visit just to say hello to Emma. It was a quick moment, warm, familiar. Katie asked Emma when she'd be getting off work. Emma told her she would be off in about an hour. Katie smiled and said she'd return to walk home together. With that, Katie and Bowie left, stepping back into the quiet, humid summer night. Instead of heading straight home, it appears Katie decided to extend their walk, weaving through the neighborhood streets. Eventually, she made her way toward Piedmont Park, just a short distance away. It was a decision that should have been routine, but it was a decision that led her straight into the darkness. And by the time Emma finished her shift, Katie was nowhere to be found. For those unfamiliar, Piedmont Park is a vast green space nestled in the heart of Midtown Atlanta, just a short distance from the bars where Katie and Emma worked. It's one of the city's most recognizable landmarks, a place where locals and visitors alike come to walk, run, relax, and socialize. Spanning 189 acres, the park is a sprawling landscape of winding trails, lush gardens, fountains, a small lake, and an aquatic center. It also boasts a large dog park, making it a favorite spot for pet owners. Despite being surrounded by Atlanta's dense urban skyline, Piedmont Park feels secluded, an oasis of nature with countless hidden corners. For years, the park carried a reputation as a popular late-night hookup spot for gay men, a practice that persisted until at least 2009, when law enforcement installed security cameras and began cracking down on public solicitation. Today, the park is still home to many of Atlanta's homeless population, despite city officials' ongoing effort to discourage encampments. Its sheer size makes it difficult to police, especially after dark. Once the sun sets, visibility drops dramatically. In certain areas, it's nearly impossible to see more than a few feet ahead, a chilling reality that becomes crucial to understanding what happened on the night of July 27th, 2021. At approximately 12:09 a.m., a surveillance camera captured the last known image of Katie. She was seen walking her dog Bowie across the Rainbow Crosswalk at 10th Street and Piedmont Avenue, just down the road from Henry's Midtown Tavern. By that point, Katie and Bowie had been walking for about half an hour, meandering through the neighborhood before heading toward Piedmont Park. Despite repeated calls and texts, there was no response from Katie. Initially, Emma assumed that a dead battery or a minor delay might explain the silence. Trusting that Katie would eventually return, she walked back to their apartment. However, the unnerving quiet that greeted her confirmed her worst fears. Neither Katie nor Bowie were there. Panic set in as Emma's attempt to contact Katie continued to go unanswered. Desperate for answers, she activated the Find My Phone feature, which pinpointed Katie's cell at a location in Piedmont Park. Without hesitation, Emma grabbed her bicycle and rode toward the park, following the unmoving GPS signal. Katie often took Bowie for late-night walks in the park, listening to music or catching up on podcasts. Although Emma had always urged her to carry pepper spray for extra security, Katie never felt the need to. Midtown was her home, and having a pit bull by her side only reinforced that sense of safety. But this night was different. Just after 1 a.m., Emma arrived at the 10th Street entrance of Piedmont Park, her phone guiding her toward Katie's last known location. As she scanned the area, a dark shape lying in the grass near the gate caught her eye. At first, she thought it was merely a trash bag, but as she moved closer, the horrifying truth became undeniable. It was Bowie. At 1:10 a.m., the flashing red and blue lights of the Atlanta Police Department cut through the darkness. Officers moved cautiously, their boots crunching against the gravel path. As they were led deeper into the park, 100 yards in, they found what they were looking for: a body. Katie lay at the base of a tree, her lifeless form illuminated by the pale glow of the streetlights just beyond the park's edge. Her dog, Bowie, lay motionless nearby, his fur matted with blood. Both had been stabbed multiple times, a frenzied attack. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. There was something off about the scene, something that went beyond the horror of the violence. One of them whispered, "What kind of person does this to a dog?" Hours later, Deputy Chief Charles Hampton Jr. would address the press, calling it a gruesome scene, but the word gruesome didn't even begin to describe it. If this had been a robbery, it made no sense. Katie's cell phone was found near her body untouched. Her wallet, containing cash, was still in her pocket. Her expensive headphones, still on her. Even her keys remained. They didn't take her phone. She had $200 headphones and they didn't take those. They didn't take her keys, Emma later told the Washington Post. Who could do something like this? A serial killer? A ritualistic murderer? A random drifter lurking in the park? Or was it something worse? Did someone lurk in the shadows watching the police? Maybe they relished every moment of the faces of those who saw the gruesome scene, twisted in horror, frozen in disbelief. Police officials would later suggest that the killer never left the park. Fulton County District Attorney Fannie T. Willis would later tell the Washington Post, "It's a very frightening crime, strange. Most people commit a murder and want to get the hell away because they don't want to be caught, but this wasn't most people." A chilling rumor whispered among Atlanta's law enforcement suggested something even darker. Katie's body had been dragged from somewhere else. She had been killed in another part of the park, then moved, hauled through the darkness to a more isolated location. Why? To hide the crime? Or to display it? In the days that followed, Piedmont Park became a crime scene. A massive search unfolded. Officers combed through every shadow, every hidden path, every whispering tree. The lake, dark and still, was searched by dive teams. They looked for anything. A murder weapon, a trace of the killer. The neighborhoods surrounding Piedmont Park were also swept for clues. Doors knocked on, surveillance footage reviewed, but the killer had already vanished, or maybe they never left. As it turns out, a city-operated camera was fixed at the park's front entrance, directly overlooking the spot where the bodies of both Katie and Bowie were discovered that fateful morning. Police combed through the archived footage, desperate to uncover any detail that might tie the unspeakable crime to a culprit, as they expanded their search throughout the shadowed neighborhood. Another camera positioned down the block captured a chilling moment. Katie walking Bowie across the rainbow crosswalk at the intersection of 10th Street and Piedmont Avenue at exactly 12:09 a.m. This location was roughly half a mile from where their lifeless bodies were found an hour later, a distance that could have been covered in just 10 minutes if they had taken a direct route through or around Piedmont Park. The evidence indicated that the attack could not have happened any sooner than around 12:19 a.m., when Emma, Katie's partner, finished her work shift and began to realize, with growing dread, that she could not reach Katie. Sadly, 9 city-operated cameras inside Piedmont Park were not working at the time of the murder. They were not updated or synced with Atlanta PD's system, a failure that might have revealed the killer. A couple of days after the murder, authorities were photographed removing a large, ominous tree branch from the park. It is unclear why they removed the tree, but most people speculate that it was collected for evidence. The Atlanta Police Department then offered a $10,000 reward for information. Soon that reward was doubled to $20,000, with PETA matching the original donation in a gesture as unsettling as it was generous. Around the same time, the FBI was summoned to assist with the investigation, fueling suspicions that this case was far more sinister than anyone had first believed. Subsequent updates would soon reveal just how graphically brutal the crime against Katie had been. Following the initial disclosure of the chilling case, the story quickly transcended local borders and captivated international audiences. Publications as far as Europe dissected every gruesome detail, from the brutality of the crime to the eerie lack of answers. But then something even more unsettling emerged. Another murder, another woman, another park. On the very same night that Katie's life was taken, 18-year-old Tori Lang was found shot to death in Yellow River Park, just 17 miles away. The timing was too perfect. The locations, both isolated, both dark, felt like part of a pattern. Coincidence? Or the work of a predator stalking the city's parks, waiting for the right moment to strike? Online speculation ran wild. Some saw it as the first glimpse of a serial killer, a phantom lurking in the shadows of Atlanta, choosing his victims at random. In the days and weeks that followed, a quiet grief settled over Piedmont Park. Mourners arrived in steady streams, leaving behind flowers, candles, and dog treats, silent tributes to Katie and Bowie, whose lives had been stolen in the most brutal fashion. Yet, as the memorial grew, so did the unease, because this was not the first time blood had been spilled in the park. Back in 2009, Patrick Boland, a 43-year-old gay man, had been found stabbed to death in what police initially labeled a robbery gone wrong. But as the investigation unfolded, a far darker theory emerged. Patrick had been murdered during a sexual encounter, possibly lured into the park by his unknown killer. 15 minutes later, another gay man was attacked just a few blocks away, stabbed, left for dead. Many believe Katie's murder had been a hate crime, a targeted attack against the LGBTQ community. Theories spread like wildfire across social media, fueling a storm of fear and paranoia. Police struggled to contain the growing hysteria. They insisted there was no proof of a serial killer lurking in Atlanta's parks. They urged the public to remain calm. Even Atlanta's Mayor Kesha Lance Bottoms stepped forward, addressing the rumors head-on during a tense press conference 1 week after the murders. "There is no evidence of a serial killer on the loose," she stated firmly. Yet, her words did little to extinguish the rising dread. It was too early, she admitted, to determine whether Katie had been murdered because of her sexuality. And for many, that was enough to keep the fear alive. Officers combed through every lead, refusing to let any one theory dictate their investigation. Then, in August 2021, 1 week after Katie's murder, Atlanta PD released a series of surveillance photos. The images captured potential witnesses, shadowy figures moving through the night, seen in and around Piedmont Park on the evening of the killing. Joggers, strangers, passerbyers, maybe a killer? We are not saying that any of these individuals are suspects at this time, Atlanta Police Deputy Chief Charles Hampton Jr. told the press, but they may have seen something. They may have heard something. Any small detail could help us piece together what happened that night. The released images were grainy, eerie snapshots of a night shrouded in horror. Each figure, a fleeting blur against the dimly lit streets, was a potential key to unlocking the mystery. A group of women seen leaving Piedmont Park at 11:55 p.m. A lone man walking Piedmont Avenue from the opposite end of the park at 12:25 a.m. A hooded figure slipping out of the park at 12:43 a.m. A man in a blue running suit jogging in and out at 12:46 a.m. His presence lasting no more than 40 seconds. Piedmont Park is massive, 189 acres of open space, winding trails, and dense tree cover. Its sheer size and lack of continuous fencing means that escaping unnoticed wouldn't be difficult. This park bleeds into multiple streets, offering countless ways to slip into the darkness. The killer could have vanished anywhere. By September 2021, police spoke to select journalists offering cryptic updates. No one had been ruled out, that much was clear. But then came an unsettling hint, subtle yet chilling. Could the killer have known Katie? A familiar face? Despite this ominous implication, they refused to say more. By November 2021, Fulton County authorities released the long-awaited autopsy report, a document that would finally reveal the full extent of the horror. So just a warning before I read them out, they were inhumane. She had suffered at least 50 stab wounds. The killer had slashed and punctured her head, neck, and abdomen with relentless fury. 15 of those wounds had been inflicted upon her face alone, carved through her eyelids, nose, and upper lip, in a grotesque display of cruelty. But the worst of it was her throat. The blade had cut so deeply that her head was nearly severed from her body. Most of the wounds were less like a single fatal strike and more like a slow, deliberate act of torture. The blade had toyed with her flesh. It wasn't just a murder, it was punishment. The mutilation was extensive. The killer had targeted a vibrant tattoo on Katie's back, stabbing into it 14 times as if trying to erase it. They had disfigured her breasts. They had sliced her abdomen open from sternum to groin, exposing what lay beneath. There were no signs of SA, but her pants were pulled down, and then, in a final act of perverse cruelty, they had carved letters into her body, F-A-T. The F and A were grouped together on the right side of her chest. The T was alone on the left. Whoever did this had been standing over her as they worked, knife in hand, watching the blood pool beneath them. Some online theorized that the letters were part of a homophobic slur. Others believed it was something else entirely, a personal insult, a final way for the killer to humiliate Katie even after death. The worst part, the wounds had blood hemorrhage. That meant she was alive when they were carved. The autopsy also confirmed extensive blunt force trauma to her face, neck, and torso. But in those final moments, she hadn't fought alone. A necropsy was performed on Bowie, her beloved pit bull. Though authorities withheld many details, one fact became undeniable. He had died protecting her. The wounds on Bowie suggested a struggle, perhaps even evidence that he had bitten the killer. There were whispers that blood or skin cells had been left behind in his mouth, or perhaps smeared across his fur. Somewhere buried in the aftermath of this nightmare was a piece of the monster who did this. If Katie had been targeted, it was believed her outspoken personal beliefs might have marked her for a dark fate. Emma recalled that Katie was a force of nature, never holding back her convictions even when confronted by those who opposed her. She felt very strongly about her views. Every time she met someone who disagreed, she would engage them again and again, trying to change their minds, little by little, until they either relented or her words haunted them. Some believe that her unwavering crusade to reshape opinions had drawn the attention of a sinister figure. Did Katie's passionate voice seal her tragic destiny? Despite the intense investigation, public outcry, and the lingering fear that someone so brutal could still be walking free, Katie Janness and Bowie's killer has never been caught. This case remains open, a haunting reminder of the violence that can lurk even in the most familiar places. Time has passed, but the question remains: who did this and why? Was it personal, or the work of a predator who may strike again? Until answers emerge, the bench in the dog park stands as both a tribute and a haunting reminder.